Thank you. So again, first introduce myself. My name is Shivaraj. I'm the technical solutions architect at Hycu. Been with the company for, I would say, more than 3 years now. So it's been a fun journey. We have basically introduced one of the best data protection solutions available in the market today. And the way we started was like we basically started with, a small purpose-built support for Nutanix platform back in 2017, but now we have basically expanded into this multi-cloud data protection solution that offers not just seamless data protection, but also data migration and disaster recovery capabilities in a pure hybrid cloud environment. So with that being said, the first thing that I'd like to start with is introduction about what our company is and what we offer. The first thing that I'd like to start with is our headquarters. Like we are based out of Boston, but we do have offices worldwide. Speaking of our offices in the United States, we have offices in Boston, in Chicago, and in Austin, and we have more than I would say more than 300 plus employees worldwide. And one of the cool things about our company is our engineering team's heritage and experience with creating data protection solutions. So even before we started with our own backup and recovery or data protection solution called Hycu, we were extremely our engineers were really deep down experienced with creating data protection solutions for several blue chip companies like EMC, HP, and several of these backup and recovery solutions were actually top data protection solutions in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. So we finally decided, instead of just being a services organization, what if we try to create our own branded backup and recovery data protection solution in a multi-cloud environment? And that's exactly where we are right now, where we offer a true multi-cloud data protection solution that not only covers your on-prem resources but also your public cloud environments. And yes, for this specific session, I'll be focusing on how we protect your workloads in the public cloud environment. Now, speaking of our presence, we do have we have sold our solution across the globe. We actually have customers across 75 countries, and we have more than 2,500 customers, and they're rapidly growing. And speaking of these customers, we have all of these customers spread across multiple verticals. I'm talking about banking sector. I'm talking about financial services. Public sector. Be it with regards to retail or manufacturing, technology. Legal offices, and we've basically made ourselves as one of the most a diverse and versatile data protection solution when it comes to supporting and providing data protection services to customers across several verticals. So how did we manage to get there, and how do we basically help customers, especially focused on this particular session when it comes to Azure? What kind of customers do we really help, right? Especially when it comes to Hycu Protege. It basically starts with your on-prem resources. Now, when you have customers who are considering public clouds, in this case Azure, we are basically one of the best solutions in the market where we can actually offer or help customers who are trying to test the waters of a public cloud environment. So what we do is we can basically offer seamless backups of their on-prem infrastructure directly to Azure Blob Storage. This requires no agents. This doesn't require any plugins. All you would have to do is simply deploy Hycu's virtual appliance in your on-prem infrastructure, and we can back up your physical and your virtualized infrastructure. I'm talking about VMwares or Nutanix. I'm also talking about your physical Windows or Linux boxes directly to your Azure Blob Storage. And these backups are 100% immutable, and that is exactly where this whole ransomware story comes into picture, because as we all know, ransomware attacks have become more prevalent in this day and age. And one of the core things about protecting your infrastructure or organization from a ransomware attack is basically having an immutable backup, right? And that is exactly what we offer. We have the ability to not just perform backups directly to your object storage on Azure, but we also have the ability to we will be having that ability to basically perform all of these backups to worm enabled Azure Blob. Now, in addition to that, we also have the ability to help customers who are in the middle of migrating their on-prem resources to the Azure public cloud platform, right? So in this case, we are basically talking about customers who have basically decided to go with Azure platform, and they're basically in the middle of lifting and shifting their workloads from their on-prem infrastructure to their Azure cloud, and we offer a pure, seamless way, agentless migration from point A to point B, point A being your on-prem infrastructure and point B being your Azure. This is 100% secured. We can assure application consistent migration from your on-prem to Azure cloud. And again, as I mentioned before, when it comes to moving to Azure, you don't have to worry about any additional installs or deploying agents or plugins. It's extremely simple and straightforward. And that is exactly what I'll be doing or showcasing in my short demonstration. Now, the third set of customers where we can really, help is for customers who are already on Azure. They're basically moved, all of their workloads or all of their required workloads on their Azure platform, and we provide them a native backup as a service, air-gapped backup infrastructure for all of their Azure VMs to their Azure Blob storage. So these are the top 3 customer use cases that we basically cover when it comes to Hycu Protege, especially targeted for Microsoft Azure. And in addition to that, one of the things that I'd like to point out is our unending quest for ransomware protection, right? We not only have the technology of protecting your backups from a ransomware attack, but we also have come up with a ransomware recovery readiness score, basically known as R score, which is pretty much similar to your credit score. I mean, that is how we have modeled it towards. And you can actually go to this website and you can basically answer a set of questions that would evaluate the state of your backup infrastructure, and it would basically give you a set of parameters or a set of recommendations of what you need to do to basically make your backup infrastructure 100% bulletproof against ransomware attacks. And again, this is 100% a free service. Please check us out at getarscore.org. And one of the cool things here is you don't even have to give us your contact information, right? We don't need to collect your email addresses or nothing. This is 100% a free service. And please, if you have like 10 to 15 minutes of your time, you can check this out. Now we've spoken about the number of customers or the type of customers we basically help when it comes to data protection. Now I just want to showcase our architectural overview of how our solution is deployed in a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud environment, especially targeted for Microsoft workloads. So to start with, right, you can have your on-prem infrastructure, right? It could basically be VMware or Nutanix or a couple of Windows boxes. We have the ability to basically protect them, not just to any on-prem backup device, but we are the only vendor in the market today that can actually offer, agentless, 100% like zero installation on your public cloud infrastructure to perform seamless incremental backups directly to your Azure Blob Object Storage. And if you have any tiering policies in place, we will still be able to, honor those tiering policies. Like Hycu can basically do backups directly to hot or cool tiers, and we also have the ability to understand if those backups have moved to archive tier and you're trying to do a restore, we can automatically move them, from your archive tier to your respective current hot or cool tier, and we should be able to do recovery as well. And the best part about doing backups to cloud is basically leveraging your public cloud as a DR target, meaning that if your on-prem infrastructure is impacted by a catastrophe or unforeseen disaster, or if it is impacted by a ransomware attack, you always have the option to do basically a DR directly on your Azure public cloud. And if you're an Azure customer, as you can see, Hycu's backup as a service can actually support the backup and recovery of all of your Azure workloads directly to your Azure Blob storage. And again, this whole migration or the ability to move your VMs is bi-directional, meaning that you not only have the ability to move your VMs from your on-prem to your Azure public cloud infrastructure, but you can also move those VMs back seamlessly from your public cloud back to your on-prem infrastructure. So this whole migration is or the VM mobility is bi-directional, which is exactly why we can offer you seamless data protection. Doesn't matter where your workloads reside. We can also offer you data migration between your on-prem and your Azure infrastructure. We can also offer you disaster recovery capabilities by leveraging your Azure public cloud as a DR target. And we can also offer you ransomware recovery by us performing backups to worm-enabled object storage. And our solution in itself is 100%. It's offered as a black box, meaning that you cannot have any backdoor entries, or you cannot basically breach into our service that easily. That's basically impossible. So time for us to do a quick demo. So I'm just going to be showcasing 3 simple use cases. The first one is, I do want to start with how we do backups to your public cloud infrastructure, right? So I'm basically going to start with, considering some of my on-prem resources and doing backup to my Azure Blob storage. And in the process, I would also show you not just backups, but how do we basically, showcase the migration and failover of my on-prem VMs to a public cloud infrastructure. And the third, use cases, I can also show not only the failback of my resources from the public cloud to on-prem, but I also will showcase what if you're a customer running your workloads on Azure? How do we go about protecting your workloads on Azure as well? So it's going to be, I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground in a short time. So that being said, let me just do a quick screen change. Ron, I just wanted to confirm, are you able to see my screen? Because I just changed my view. It's okay. Should be fine, I think. Should be on mute. All right. If I'm not mistaken, let me see. So, all right. So let me start with my on-prem infrastructure, right? So this is basically the place where I have my on-prem VMware VMs and Nutanix VMs being backed up my Hycu's on-prem infrastructure. So the way we deploy our solution in your on-prem infrastructure is we simply deploy our solution as a virtual appliance, be it on VMware or on Nutanix AHV, and we can basically, literally back up all of your virtual machines, your physical boxes from this one single UI, right? And when it comes to performing backups, as I mentioned before, we do backups directly to Azure Blob Storage. I mean, as a matter of fact, we have several options here. We can do backups to on-prem backup targets. We can do backups to several cloud targets. But in this session, I'm purely focused on Microsoft solutions. So yes, we do have the ability to perform backups directly to Azure Blob Storage, which means you can do incremental backups directly to your Azure Object Storage. And this basically introduces this concept of zero backup footprint in your on-prem infrastructure. I mean, think about this, right? In reality, if you have our solution, you really don't need to have, or you don't need to waste any, real estate for deploying a separate hardware appliance to store your backups. All of your backups can be directly performed to your cloud with no staging, none of that nonsense, right? So with that being said, so our solution is a policy-based data protection solution, meaning that we can perform backups of all of your VMs or your physical resources directly to your Azure Blob Storage. And as a positive side effect, once you have your backups performed onto your Azure Blob Storage, we also have this ability to, basically fail over those backups directly to your Azure Blob Storage. So in this example, I've just chosen one of my VMs that have been backed up to my public cloud infrastructure, and I'm basically trying to, fail over that VM onto my Azure Cloud Service account. So what I'm doing here is I'm choosing the appropriate resource group within my Azure service account, and I'm specifying the region. As you can imagine, there are several regions in. Okay. So I'm just trying to choose the right. Okay. So we basically have our account in one of the west, one of the region, one of the in the Western Europe region, and that is exactly where we have our storage account, which is why I had to choose the right region. So as you can see here, I've chosen the subscription account within Azure. I've chosen the right resource group, the right region, and the storage account that corresponds to that region. And when I choose next, this is the best part. This is the place where I not only have the ability to simply migrate my VM, but I also have the ability to, modify the compute or the memory resources. And in addition to that, when I specify the appropriate, memory and CPU resources, Hycu will be able to automatically give you the options of the VM type that you can specify, right? And that is the best part, because you also have the option to size your VMs appropriately when you're moving from your on-prem infrastructure to your public cloud. And in addition to that, you also have the ability to specify the appropriate network interfaces that are available on your Azure cloud. So this is like a full-blown migration slash DR failover solution that actually has the ability to move your VMs from your on-prem to your public cloud infrastructure in an agentless, application consistent manner, right? Now, in addition to that, if you wanted to, simply spin those, spin your VMs from your Azure cloud, you can simply click on the option spin up VM from cloud, and you can choose the spin up VM from Azure, and you would basically select the same set of, regions and the service account. And this would basically help you to, basically move your VMs from your public cloud infrastructure back to your on-prem infrastructure. So that is how easy our solution is, right? The ability to simply move your VMs back and forth between your on-prem and your public cloud infrastructure or Azure infrastructure, truly promoting a hybrid cloud, data center. Now, the second part that I wanted to talk about is, what if customers already have their workloads running on their on their Azure infrastructure? So in those cases, like what customers can do if they want to check our solution out on Azure, all you would have to do is basically go to the Azure Marketplace, search for our solution, and once you have done that, you would basically be able to subscribe to our solution instantaneously. And the best part here is Hycu for Azure seamlessly integrates with Azure's Active Directory, meaning that you don't have to, do any setup or any configuration. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to go through any of the discovery process, because Azure's solution, backup as a service, is purely hosted as, is delivered as a service, which means that you as an end user don't have to go through any deployments. You don't have to do any manual installation. Everything is fully automated, and we also provide you a cloud scale architecture, meaning that it really doesn't matter how big your environment within your Azure cloud platform is. We will be able to automatically expand or shrink our compute and memory resources to perform backups of your Azure VMs, meaning that you as an end user don't have to waste countless hours in sizing your backup infrastructure once you're on Azure, right? So just like the way we protect your on-prem resources, the user interface is extremely easy. Like, you will be able to discover all of your virtual machines. And as you can see, we also have the ability to perform backups directly to Azure Blob. And it really doesn't matter where your backups reside. It could be a local bucket, or it could be a multi-regional bucket, and you actually have the ability to perform both local and multi-regional backups using Hycu for Azure. And again, we have 100% policy-based data protection, meaning that we not only have this ability to ensure all of your existing VMs are protected, but if you have any newly discovered VMs, we can automate the assignment of these backup policies to your newly discovered VMs, so that the backup management process in itself can be fully automated. So that is a very short and high-level overview of what we can discover. Let me just go back to my slide deck. So I would basically like to end with a short summary of what are, or if you'd like to check our solution out, I'd like to basically provide you a set of pointers on what you can do, or where you can find more information about our solution. The first thing that I'd like to point out is, you can, if you'd like to evaluate our solution, please visit tryhycu.com, where you actually have the option of not just trying out our solution in your on-prem, infrastructure, but you can also check out our solution in your respective public cloud environment. In this case, it would be Azure. In addition to that, we also have the ability to, email us any questions. So if you have any questions about our solution, please send us an email to info@hycu.com, and we'll be more than happy to, help you answer those questions. And if you want to find out more information about our solution, please visit us at www.hycu.com, and you'll be able to find out more about our multi-cloud data protection solution.